I actually have a question for you and Myron.
Mhm.
What I'm thinking is like, okay, well, we can agree that promiscuity is bad and all these things, but what I'm wondering is like, how do you see this playing out so that people become less and less promiscuous as a society? Uh, because that's like the biggest thing. It just seems we're so far gone.
Mhm.
How do you actually like roll it back to traditional values?
Very good question, bro. Keeping it real, I don't see it going back to traditional values at all. I think it's too far gone, and when you go past that pendulum point where it's too far gone, you can't really back in. So, all you can do is save who wants to be saved. So, for example, we can tell people the reality of what's happening in the world about dating, how many women have many options. Social media has been a part of this whole swing of the pendulum, and it's so far gone that like I think nowadays, especially with dating, it's more of a okay, who is a better option for me rather than who's a better partner. So that precedent by itself of social media kind of blows it up even more. So would I ever go back? I don't think so. But maybe religion or maybe the people that want to be saved can listen to what a good person is saying to kind of stop that by getting married. But again, it's back to options and what people actually want to have as a better option versus a partner. That's what I think.
Sure. What is does Myron? Well, he didn't hear
The question was with the monogamy again, or what was it?
You want to tell them again?
So the question is like, okay, we can all pretty much agree. Well, we don't all agree, but close enough that promiscuity is bad, and that theoretically we should have, get married and have wives or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. But we're, uh, but so how would this actually happen so that things could roll back to traditional values where there's this discipline of the old times? And
I could definitely answer this. It's never going back, unfortunately. And the reason why it's never going back is because we live in a deregulated sexual marketplace, right? Where what's basically happened is, assuming age of consent is met, basically anyone can hook up with anyone. And what ends up happening when you're in these types of situations is the top tier men have all the leverage, and then the majority of women. And when women are in the buyer's basically in the buyer's seat, what ends up happening is they want to get the best man that they can get. And women didn't fight through feminism for 60, 70 years to, no offense, like be housewives. Like a lot of them want to be independent, strong, as you can see the majority here. And that's kind of what we have now, where there's a majority of feminism and less women want to accept traditional values. Now, for some that are there, that's awesome. But the problem is that I just don't foresee women conceding all the ground that they've taken thanks to feminism and go back to the kitchens, go back to a man running the household. Like they like these things in theory,
Yeah.
but most women are not willing to do what's required to actually be a wife, which is the problem. So I just don't see it going backwards, unfortunately. I think if anything, it's going to continue to get worse. And actually, there was a study that done not too long ago with like women in their 30s being in relationships or whatever. We actually are outpacing what we anticipated with single women.
Okay, I have some things to add to that, by the way.
Yeah.
One thing I'll add is you're from the Midwest, right?
No,
Where are you from?
North Florida.
Excuse me, I'm wrong.
Tallahassee.
Okay.
Sarasota.
Well, one thing is that there's multiple dating cultures that aren't yet fully corrupted. I thought that the Midwest was a bit more traditional, but I might be mistaken on that. I haven't really been to the Midwest.
No,
but-
it is.
Oh,
It is. The Bible Bell and stuff, yeah.
Okay.
More so.
Like Eastern Europe tends to be a bit more on the traditional side. A lot of
Yep.
parts of Europe. I mean, India is like very extreme with how they do things. They're even more extreme than Christianity. Like you just like straight up get married. It's all arranged marriages, and somehow that works. The dating market's a bit healthier in certain parts of South America, to my knowledge. But I'm not like an expert. There's this guy. You guys must have heard of J.D. Unwin, right? J.D. Unwin. You never heard of this guy, really?
No.
Really?
Who's
Okay.
that?
Well, this dude was I guess he was a sociologist, anthropologist, and he conducted a study on, I believe, 80 different cultures. I read the summary of his book, but not the full book. But basically, he concluded that promiscuity of all kinds. This is all like in theory. I'm like, I can't say that I followed this myself. I've been promiscuous, but he said that promiscuity essentially ruins all cultures after 3 generations, which following the baby boom is about where we're at in American society. He said
Interesting.
that the only solution was in fact to have strict monogamy, and that was optimal for society on a whole, according to his study of all these different cultures. That's all like in theory and according to his study of history. I guess the idea is that like that's overall best for productivity. And
no, that's true. Monogamy absolutely stabilizes society, and this is why a lot of countries in the Middle East are unstable because of the polygamy, where the higher status men have the women, and when one guy or a minority of the men have a majority of the women, a lot of the guys end up without partners. They don't have partners. Obviously, this is why so many guys are in the Middle East violent. So, no, it absolutely does. It's a big reason why the United States is actually so wealthy, is because of enforced monogamy, being a Christian white country first, and then obviously the manufacturing trade. Obviously World War I, World War II, etc. So. No, it definitely does help. I think my thing is, when it comes to monogamy, right, most men are not going to be monogamous, and I do think that if a man reaches a certain level of success, they're just naturally not going to be monogamous. And I think if you're honest about that, and you have multiple girlfriends or multiple wives, and you're honest about it, I think that's the best way to do it, because most guys are going to do what they do and just lie about it. So I think being honest about it, and at least letting your girlfriend have the decision versus lying to her, is the best way to go. And then obviously, I'm not a devout Muslim now, but that's what I would want, where I would want at least 2 to 3 families. I wouldn't just want one. So.
Yeah, I think it's extremely hard to be disciplined in that kind of way, especially with sexually hypersexual society. Like, it would have to be like a gradual process back.
Yeah, and again, this is something, like I said, this is why I said the leverage is only with the top percentage of guys and then a majority of the women, because the problem is that average guys are just invisible to most women, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's going to be hard fix.
Yeah. But does that answer your question about the monogamy thing, though?
I mean,
I know you don't agree with it,
I knew that was your background.
Okay.
So that's why I asked.
All right.
I don't agree with it, but
Sure.
we agree to disagree.
That's fine. I mean, and I obviously, your backing is from a religious standpoint, so you're not going to agree.